Hey, it's Terry from Waving My Wand, and I'm joining the Just Cards video hop again this month. And this month's theme is Out of Space or Galaxy Background. And what I'm going to do is create a galaxy background for you today with various Ranger inks and oxide inks. And to begin, I want to start by stamping a sentiment first. I'm going to use a part of this sentiment, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So what I want to do to begin is to line this up about where I want it on here. And I have also created a paper stencil that I'll be using as well for the outline of my planets. So I want to make sure it's all going to kind of look right. I'm working with an A2 sized piece of watercolor paper. So that's the dimensions there for you. Make sure that this is lined up pretty straight. You know, when you have a rubber stamp that does not have the image on the back side, it's easier to just look at it and line up here on these grids. So I think I've got it about where I want it, and I'm going to go ahead and lay down some VersaFine ink. But before I do, let me put down the tape to mask this last sentiment. The sentence on here that I don't want to use. The sentiment is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, do you know how loved you are? But I just want Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So I'm going to remove my tape and go ahead and stamp onto my watercolor paper. And I'm going to do this a couple times just to make sure I've got enough clear ink on there. I'm using Versamark watercolor ink. Now if you do this multiple times, you'll need to lay your tape down every time in between inkings. So let me ink it up again one more time, and I think that will be good enough. And rip off the tape, and let's stamp it again. Normally I use an anti-static pouch, or you can use a dryer sheet to swipe across your watercolor paper before you begin, and that helps to remove the excess stray powders that can accumulate. However, I started and forgot to do that. Typical Terry. So we're just going to end up probably with a little bit of stray powders, but that's okay. So let's get a piece of paper under here so that we can tap off our excess. And let me get some of my stuff out of the way. So here we go. I'm going to use Ranger ink white embossing powder. And we'll just cross our fingers that there's not too much excess stuff on there. Tap it off really good. And if you do find that there's a little bit of excess powder on there, you can just take a paintbrush. Hang on. Alright, and there's a little bit right down here that I don't want on there. And I'm going to take off that last little bit. It had some dots on there. I'll blow on it a little bit and see if I can get out some of that. So you get the gist of it though. If you see a little bit here on the edges, just take a little paintbrush, go in between wherever it is that you want to remove some of that stray powder. See, if I'd have rubbed my little dryer sheet on there, we wouldn't have this problem right now. I could start over, but where's the fun in that? So let me put the rest of my embossing powder back in the jar and close her up, and I'll go ahead and dry this off camera just to save time and be right back. Alright, I've used my heat emboss tool to dry my sentiment, and it looks alright. To be honest, I ran out of watercolor paper, and I cannot believe I have run out of watercolor paper because I never do that. I am always well stocked with watercolor paper. I don't know what happened, but so I had to scrounge up this one last little piece. And that's just a crafter's life for you. So the next thing I'm going to do is bust out some of my distress inks. And I've got a variety of blues and purples and a little black. Those are my colors of preference for doing an oxide background. And I like to start out with my chipped sapphire. That's my favorite color for laying down the base of the galaxy background. And I may or may not use all of these inks. We'll just have to see. But let me first lay down this little stencil. Now I've already adhered some, not sure if you can see that, some double-sided some repositionable tape from this bad boy right here. This is the green cartridge is my repositionable tape cartridge from Scrapbook Adhesives by 3L. Shout out. And I want to go ahead and lay down this little stencil that I've made. Did I already tell you about that? I made this little stencil out of just some die circles, some nesting circles. And I'm using I went ahead and measured it. These are 2-inch circles, and the smaller one is a 1-inch circle. So I'm going to go ahead and put my circles in place as well. So put a little bit of that repositionable tape. That way this stuff will peel right back up, and we don't have to worry about anything. So that's what I like about this stuff. When you need to use something for a stencil, this is perfect for that. A temporary stencil. Okay, so I'm getting my repositionable tape down, and that's somewhat of a tongue twister. And these are going to be these cutouts are going to be my planets. So I've got one on top of another here, and you can't really see because it's all white. And but that's what we're gonna. Now that I've got my planets down, I'm gonna peel off the stencil that I used. And I used really thin paper. In fact, if you want to know the truth of it, I've got so many envelopes just in various sizes. I grabbed an envelope because that envelope paper is super thin. You could use computer paper. That would be good. But something really thin is what I like to do for this type of project. So I'm going to start out by laying down some of my chipped sapphire distress ink. And this is just such a great color for backgrounds, for galaxy backgrounds. It really is. It's such a deep color. And this is like my favorite. And I usually go ahead and put like a little bit on each corner to begin. And then I work with other colors after that. So I'm just kind of randomly spreading out my colors, and we'll see. We'll just see how it goes. Every time it's different. And that's kind of the fun of this. You can do it up different every time. I'll be using my blender tool here. You can use daubers. I've got some of those as well. And so I'm going to switch up colors now and put in a little bit of just a lighter blue. And so I've got some Mermaid Lagoon. And I'm just going to kind of go along where I've already done some of my chipped sapphire. Put some kind of here in the middle. Just kind of blend it in. And then I'm going to go in with some of my wilted violet. And I have a little dauber right here with already a little bit of that on it. So I'm just going to put this out here in random places. It's just kind of wherever you want to put the color, basically. And I try to spread it out, make it look like what I would imagine a galaxy would look like. I'm also going to lay down a little bit of black soot to give it more of a darker feel to it. Okay, so there's my purples. Just going to kind of blend those in a little bit. And you can see why it's good to have a very thin paper here for your circles, because it just allows you to get closer contact to the edge and have a cleaner line. So at least that's my thought process. And I'm going to add some black soot now. And let's see, that must be this one right here. Yes. I hope you can see everything. Maybe I need to zoom in a little bit to make it more fun and interactive. All right, the black soot is not really, to me, it's not a really dark black. But it'll give us a little bit of darkness on top of what we've already got here. Because, you know, the sky is pretty dark. Alright, just going to keep going, and I may want to layer a little bit more as we go. I just kind of do whatever feels right, and anyway, so there you have it. And I think I do want to put in some more of that chipped sapphire. I just like it to be super, super dark. So I'm going to grab, I tell you what, I've got a dauber here. Let me just use it. And I believe this is chipped. Yep. So I'm going to add some more of that and go in a little darker. When I'm done here, we're going to dry it with a heat tool. Add some water. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll add some water splatters first. And then we're going to dry it with a heat tool. And we're going to add some paint splatters. Now, normally what I like to do is let the watercolor paper dry really well on its own, and so that it's thoroughly dry inside and out. It just that when we do the paint splatters, it just tends to look better. If your paper's not super, super dry like it should be, then what will happen is your paint splatters will absorb the paint that's already, or the ink that's onto the watercolor paper. So you want to make sure that it's just really, really good and dry. And I'm liking how this is looking so far. I like just the little hint of the purple. And sometimes I add in a little yellow, but when I do that, I don't know what I'm really doing. So, hey, I'm admitting to you, I really don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes my yellow disappears, so I just got to where I don't even bother with it. So I'm going to put a little bit more right in here around the planets and try to blend it out a little bit. We're almost done with this portion, so thanks for sticking with me. I'm sure that y'all have probably seen a ton of these videos already, but they're fun to do. They're a lot of fun to do. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the paper cutouts on there. And you know, these are really, really cool. To be honest, we could probably just keep those on there and use them as part of our project. If I was going to do that, I would have to do a little bit more blending though. But what I want to do first is some water splatters. So let's see, here's my water bottle. Just put some water in your hand and splatter it around. And then we'll let it sit for just a minute, and then we're going to blot it with a paper towel. That's simple. Okay. And you can see that it's going to give a really cool effect. It's already kind of, the ink is changing. And I just grabbed a used paper towel, and we're going to start blotting. Okay, I love the way that looks. So what do you think? Do you think we should leave these little cutouts on here? I think they look kind of cool, don't you? If I were to take them off, let's just take a look and see what it looks like without them. It looks like a moon, of course, but I was going to add in a little bit of shading right there. But gosh, I don't know if I want to now. I might just want to leave these little things on here. If I do, I'm going to have to put some permanent adhesive on there to keep it in place. So let us first go ahead and dry this, and I'll do that off camera and be right back. Okay, now it's fixing to get real messy. I've got my Americana multi-surface satin paint. This is white paint from Deco Arts, and I use this on all my projects. But since we're going to splatter paint, I'm going to have to bring in this big old box because I don't want to make a mess of my entire craft space. And as you can see, this box has been well used. And I also think I want to go ahead and remove these little moons here. I'm going to call them moons just for the sake of not having anything else really to call them. Planets, okay, planets. And I'm going to take those off, and we're going to do our paint splatters without that on there, because I'd like to have a little contrast from my planets to my background. So what I've got is some a little bit of a craft mat here that I keep cut up, and I'm going to put some white paint onto my craft mat, and I'm going to take my wet toothbrush, and I'm almost out of paint in this thing, but I do have some more, so if I have to get it out, I will. Alright, just a dollop of white paint, and then get a wet toothbrush. It needs to be pretty wet. You know, wouldn't have it like completely saturated, but it needs to be damp, and so the bristles are going to flow pretty well. And just dip your paintbrush into the white paint, and we're just going to take our thumb and just brush over the painted toothbrush. This is just a quick way to get kind of a ton of splatters on your project. So here we go. I'm just gonna, oh gosh, my paintbrush is a little too wet. I was afraid of that, so don't worry, we can blot that up. Okay, let me get my paper towel. See, you know, when you're live like this, anything can happen. Okay, I'm gonna blot that again too. All right, here we go. Again. So we're just gonna splatter. And I'm gonna go back in and put larger splatters after we're done with this. But this is gonna kind of look like lots of little stars in the background. And you know, like I said earlier, make sure your paper is good and dry, because if it's not, this paint will absorb the colors and it's not going to look like white stars. So just a word of advice. And by the way, you're going to get lots of paint on you when you do this. So you want to go in and be sure you wash your hands right away. I just so happen to have these lovely things that I love. They're called Crafter's Essentials. They're hand wipes, and I use these for getting stuff off of my hands immediately. So I love these, and they also are great for cleaning up your craft mat as well. So that's just a little plug for my Crafter's Essentials hand wipes. Oh wow, I got paint everywhere. Everywhere. Okay. So I got the most of it off. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and add in some larger splatters using the paint that's on my craft mat. And how I'm going to do that is with the tip of a paintbrush. And so let me get one here. Here's a paintbrush right here, not the bristle portion, but the actual end of the paintbrush. And we're just going to dip it into the paint and just drop some little larger dots on here. Just put them wherever you want. And I'm also going to get a toothbrush, and we're going to do some other things with, a toothpick. I'll show you in a minute. Because we are talking about Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on here, right? So I want a star to be kind of like the focus, and you can just kind of keep tapping around on your paper. Just tap everywhere you want. You can make little circles, big circles. You can get a whole bunch of taps out of one dip. See, can you see what I'm doing? Okay. So I'm just going to kind of keep going, because this is a big universe. Know what I mean? And want to have a lot of stars. Sometimes I have been known to go in and color some of my little white stars as red colors, because sometimes when you look up in the sky, you see like little red dots in the sky, you know, like airplanes and whatnot. It's official. I have got my Bob Ross voice going on. Now look here. I wasn't my sentiment didn't come out as great as I'd hoped because I didn't use my anti-static pouch, and I would redo it, but like I said earlier, I ran out of watercolor paper and I had no idea. I've got plenty of mixed media paper, but didn't know I was out of watercolor paper. And so, anyway. Alright, so now we're going to have a star. I think I want to put it right about here. Kind of like a bigger star. Get up a good bit of that paint. And just kind of draw it in here like this. And then I'm going to take a toothpick. And I keep toothpicks at my craft desk. I mean, I'm just crazy like that. Just a little old thing of dollar toothpicks I picked up at the Dollar Tree. And I use toothpicks for so many different things when I'm crafting and card making. And so now I just want to take my toothpick and draw some lines and make this star just kind of pop a little bit. So I think that's good enough, don't you? I like that. Well, I could put more on there. What do you think? Do we need some more? Maybe one or two more? Let's see, can you see that? Yeah, I think I'll just leave it with the one for right now, since I've been talking for a long time and I know you guys are tired of hearing me. So the next step I would do is to go ahead and dry this, and I will do this off camera really quick. Be right back. Okay, for the most part it's pretty dry, and I'm thinking that if I wanted to, I could go in and do a little bit of watercoloring, but golly, I just think this looks so good. I really do. I love this. So I want to keep these little cutouts that we sort of marked over as my planets. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and lay down some permanent adhesive now to make sure that it stays. And I could pop them up with foam squares or foam circles, but I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to go ahead and just add the permanent and lay it down flat. And by the way, I love these things. They're so easy to pop the cartridges in and out, and that runner lasts forever. Golly, everybody needs one of these. Alright, so I'm laying down my permanent ink now because we want that little planet to stick really well. And so here's planet number 1. And my paint should be good and dry under there, so I think we're good to go. Oh, that looks so good. Look at that, y'all. That looks so good. Oh my gosh. Don't you just love when things kind of accidentally come together? I know I do. Alright, planet number 2. I'm going to have the smaller one be, I can't decide if I want it to be out in front of the big planet or if I want it to be behind it. Well, you know what? It's going to have to be behind it because I've got this little spot here. So let's lay that down. And now one more and then we're done. Thank you again for sticking with me. You'll find full product links for everything I used in today's project in the video description. I use affiliate links, so if you shop through my links, I will receive a small commission that helps support my giveaways that I have on my various social media channels. And I hope you're following me at Waving My Wand. Thank you so much for stopping in today, and I hope to see you again soon. Hey, you know what would be cool? Ooh, I just thought of something. Let's have that kind of white outline behind this planet. Ooh, yeah, that's going to be good. What do you think? Kind of like the light from the moon or something? Ooh, I like that. I totally like that. So there we have it. And I'm going to redo this for sure because I want to get some more watercolor paper and do up that sentiment right. But for the sake of time and trying to get this video out in a timely manner, I had to get it done today. But thank you so much for coming in. I hope this gives you some good ideas for creating your galaxy backgrounds. I'll see you later.